program indyjski na podróży bez paszportu. Zaprasza Aleksandra Jaskólska.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Aleksandra Jaskólska. For several years, I've been associated with the University of Warsaw, Poland, and Cross-Cultural Intelligence company that specializes in managing diverse work environments. We offer consulting, training, and personalized development to help achieve effective collaboration in multinational environment. I would like to invite you for a special episode of the India program. India program is created thanks to the support of U.S Investment. In this very special episode, you can listen to the interview which I conducted with Dr. Samir Saran, who is the president of the Observer Research Foundation, India's premier think tank headquartered in New Delhi, with affiliates in North America and in the Middle East. Dr. Samir Saran is a member of the Global Risk Advisory Board and chair of the Global Future Council on Geopolitics of the World Economic Forum. He has served as the commissioner of the Global Commission on the Stability of the Cyberspace. He is also a member of Board of Directors of Observers Research Foundation America. And just to add a bit more on Dr. Saran's experience, he is also a part of the Board of Governors of East-West Center. He also curates the Raisina Dialogue, India's annual flagship program on geopolitics and geoeconomics. President Murmu has just concluded her two-state visit to Portugal and Slovakia. That's the first time, I believe, in 29 years since the President of India went to Slovakia. And then last year in September, Prime Minister Modi came to Poland and Ukraine. So I'm very curious about your opinion on this. What India is expecting from Central and Eastern European countries?
Look, we have an old relationship with this region. It was, of course, in a very different political moment. At that time, there was actually a bipolar world. There was the Eastern Bloc, there was the Western Bloc. India had friends in both those blocs, but certainly deeper friendships in the Eastern Bloc. As you know, that Warsaw and New Delhi were indeed strong partners at that particular time. Then came the 90s. India began its economic reform journey, rebuilding its economic, undergirding its economic infrastructure, changing some of its policies, freeing up the economy, removing the licenses, trying to build a modern 21st century future that eventually we can now look back and say was a decisive moment. Poland was picking up the pieces after the end of the communist past, and it too was rebuilding its economic future. It was also struggling in terms of what it had in its hands, both the challenges and very few resources, and it had to put together its pieces. And by the way, it's done fantastically. In many ways, you can look at Poland and say it's one of the success stories of that time, right? So both of us in that time when we were rebuilding ourselves kind of forgot each other. So we were good friends when we were young. We grew apart as we grew older. And now that we are wiser, we are rediscovering the merits in being friends again. And the Prime Minister's visit to Poland, the President's visit to Slovakia, after nearly 3 decades each, in many ways kind of tells you the same story, that we are beginning a new journey as friends, as partners. And the Prime Minister and of both countries, Prime Minister Tusk and Prime Minister Modi, have decided to elevate this partnership to a strategic partnership. So we are not playing it cool or easy. We are actually being demanding of each other. We are expecting more from each other. And I am quite clear that the India-European relationship, and I said this at the Warsaw Security Forum in 2023, much before these visits. In 2023, when I was asked to speak there, I made a point that New Europe, which is Central and Eastern Europe, and this new India that has emerged are going to decide the future of these two geographies. So it is Warsaw and New Delhi who will be the drivers of the EU-India relationship. It's not going to be Paris or Berlin or some of the old capitals. Now Poland is going to play an equally important role, and we need to recognize it. It has the economic tailwinds. It has a momentum. It is the fastest growing EU economy. It is already going to overtake Spain this year and become a bigger economy than Spain. And very soon it will be the top 2 or 3 military forces in this continent, economic forces in this continent, technology drivers in this continent. And there is no way that any large economy of the world can ignore Poland. Poland is going to be coveted by many. It is going to be sought after by many. And I hope as India seeks to engage with Poland, Poland will reciprocate. So for us, Poland is an important European partner. As part of the EU, it is going to be a leading voice. And we want to work with Poland and shape this relationship.
I could not agree more. And I also believe also for Poland, there is a big chance to move EU closer to India, as Poland now is having a presidency in the EU. So I definitely agree with that. We should take this momentum. Do you see that there's maybe a chance of Poland to create something similar as the Nordic summit, which India has with the Nordic countries? Do you see this potential?
Look, first of all, I think gods have spoken. It is only now, in February end, under the presidency of Poland of the Council of Europe, that you had the full commissioners meeting in Delhi, right?
Yes,
it's never happened before, not with any country. This is the first time ever. And history will record that it was during the presidency of Poland, right? You didn't plan for it. But like I said, gods have spoken that the Polish-India partnership is significant. So that's in many ways both a coincidence as well as maybe a sign of the future. But on a more serious note, yes, I think there is a requirement for a more formal Central Eastern Europe and India forum. There are a number of ways we can spin that. I think the bureaucracy in Brussels and the bureaucracy in India should knock their heads and see how can we actually, even as we build the bigger EU-India relationship, look at the specific elements of partnerships with different regions. I think Poland must take the lead here. In its presidency, perhaps, even strive to announce an annual dialogue or an annual summit or a biannual summit where we could have leadership from both sides meet and chart an economic, political, cultural, social, knowledge future for each other. The challenge here is that even though this region can be defined as Central Eastern Europe, the politics can be quite different. And how do you aggregate them into a unit is something that would be really interesting. I mean, there was the Visegrad initiative, there was the 3 Cs initiative. There are a number of groups that we could attach to the India Central European dialogue. Let's see how it plays out. I think it's important. We've been trying to make it happen at a track 2 level. I mean, I've been talking to the GlobeSec Forum, which is run by my dear friend Robert in Bratislava, now in the Czech Republic, in Prague. We've been talking about hosting an annual India Central European Ministers meeting and getting going. We are struggling to find who to pick and what really constitutes Central Europe here. So yes, there is a need for it. The challenge is, how do you form that group on this side of the argument? On the Indian side, of course, we will arrive where you call us. Right?
Yeah, I need to admit that, my question was tricky because I believe that as Polish people, yes, we believe we are in Central Europe. But if you ask Poles where exactly Central Europe is and where Central Eastern Europe is, we have an issue to define it. Yeah. And also, based on this, what you said, I totally agree that in Central Europe, Central Eastern Europe, we have our own challenges. And now the ball is on our side. Yeah. Because the initiatives you mentioned could be used. But due to some factors I'm going to ask you in the moment, I would like to ask you a moment, it didn't work because of of, I would say, us. Poland is working on the Indo-Pacific strategy. So we hope to join the group of the EU countries which has its own strategies, of course, beside the EU strategy. So our hope it also going to help to build closer relation with India. But to be back to Central Europe and the challenges we face to build a forum which can be a interesting partner for India. Obviously, we have differences in perception of China and Russia mostly, also US. So does it play any role in India's strategy towards Central and Eastern Europe, the perception of those countries towards, or rather policy of those countries toward Russia, China, or US?
I think as a non-aligned power in the last century, and as a country that is a staunch defender of strategic autonomy in this current era, India is respectful and it's mindful, and it is cognizant of countries having their own histories and therefore having their own specific assessments of their neighbors, of their regions, of certain actors. I do not believe that any bilateral relationship should be defined through the prism of a third party. It must have merits of its own. And neither should a third party and their behavior have a veto on any bilateral relationship. India will not allow its own friendships and its own specific concerns come in the way of developing a truly comprehensive strategic relationship with Poland. And we are quite confident that it works both ways. That Poland is a country which has a sense of itself, a sense of history, a sense of where the world is today, and is again mindful of the differences that may exist. Now, we don't have as big a gap in our understanding of countries as some people may paint it to be. I don't think we differ too much on China. It would be fair to suggest that all of us are concerned about the attribute of China which seeks to upend the world order, the revisionist elements of the Chinese state. We are all concerned about that. But equally, all of us are happy to find mutually beneficial trading relationships, economic relationships, and partnerships. Even as India and China were facing off on the mountains of the Himalayas, and we had more than 100,000 troops on each side facing off within 5 or 7 meters of each other, we still were pragmatic enough to continue our trading relationships and perhaps even grow the trading relationships even at that moment. Right? To my mind, Europe's position is no different. They see China as a strategic threat in certain arenas. They see China as an opportunity as well in many other arenas, right? So you have a mixed assessment of China as well. So I don't think the gap on China is that big. Neither on the US. We have to deal with the US as the largest and the biggest country. They are good friends of Poland. They are good friends of India. Politics is interesting all over the world, but people are good, and that remains the fundamental reason of the relationship. Politics varies. In democracies, you will have different characters occupying highest offices at different points of time, and better sense prevails because of the institutions that manage them. So I don't think we have a gap on the US and China. We have a difference in terms of how we assess Russia. You have a history with Russia, and I'm empathetic to that. We have a history with Russia where it has always been extremely friendly and extremely generous in its support for India. Support for India even against the Western nations who were behaving in a manner that was inimical to India. So we, in some sense, are shaped by our history with them, and you are shaped by yours. But we are both adults, and we are both mature enough to understand that, yes, we can agree to disagree on Russia. And despite that, there is a whole universe of possibilities that we can jointly explore. We can make these Small differences, irrelevant, if we can strengthen what we can offer to each other.
Yes, thank you so much. I truly agree. The points you mentioned about China, US, and I believe that there is a bit of lack of understanding among some policymakers in Poland about the India approach towards Russia. Yeah, as you put it perfectly in the nutshell. Yeah, for what reasons Poland has a different approach than India. But I also agree that as two adults and the countries which has huge potential, obviously.
But you know, just for your audience and just for everyone here, not for 1 minute should we hesitate to accept that even if a country is your friend, if they are in breach of international law, it should be called out. So my personal view is that you could be good friends, you could be good people, but even good friends and good people do bad things. And the bad things don't become good because it has been done by good people or good friends. Bad things are still bad things. And as far as I'm concerned, in the last 80 years, since the two big wars in Europe in the last century, every large country with nuclear weapons that has invaded another country has lost that invasion. Americans were beaten back, the Chinese were beaten back, the Soviets were beaten back, right? And I think no large invading country should be allowed to get away with a victory. And redrawing the lines in the 21st century, it is not acceptable behavior. And I'm saying so. But that doesn't mean that Russia is not our friend.
Thank you so much for this clarification. I believe very interesting for the people who are listening to our podcast. And talking on some very specific sectors in which India and Central Eastern European countries cooperate, we may focus mostly on Poland or Slovakia, for example. That's definitely AI, cybersecurity, defense sector. So I'm really curious, what is your take on this? What could be the specific actions that, for example, Poland or Slovakia could take to attract India even more? Because definitely those sectors are on the top of the agenda once the politicians meet or some working groups. I also found out that your book, I believe, is already out, Geotechnography. I didn't read it yet, but maybe somehow you could also mention about your book by answering this question, because I'm very excited that soon I will be able to read it. I'm really looking forward.
I'm going to actually request my colleague to give you a copy of that book before we leave town. So you should get that copy. No, but I think defense, space, technology, they're all important sectors. Connectivity, Gdansk it's a specific location where the India, Middle East, European corridor could find an entry into Central Eastern Europe. It could become a big connectivity hub, for instance, for these dynamic economies that you just mentioned, Slovakia, Slovenia, of course, even Austria and Poland. So you could serve this region, Hungary, and the whole region could be served by building a good connectivity hub. So I think Poland has a number of important advantages as well as opportunities that could benefit India, benefit the Middle East, benefit other Asian countries who are seeking to trade with Europe, and certainly the more dynamic part of Europe. Like I said to someone else this morning, that you have the most powerful and dynamic economic engine. You are optimistic about the future. And this itself is a rarity in Europe. This continent, as soon as you enter it, and when I come back to Europe, you enter a continent of grey, black and mass depression. You go back to Asia and Africa and you see optimism and you see people looking forward to a better tomorrow. For most of us in that side of the world believe that this decade is when we will change our lives, when we will better our lifestyles, when we will be able to achieve degree of industrialization, degree of self-sufficiency on a number of aspects, right? So for us, this is the most dynamic period. And many of us are actually looking forward to tomorrow. In Europe, Poland and a few others are the only ones. Poland, I see, has the same degree of optimism. They genuinely believe that they are changing their lives. They genuinely believe that tomorrow is better than yesterday, right? This is not very easy to find in this part of the world. So optimistic, positive leadership that Poland can provide to EU will lift the relationship for the whole continent with a country like India, which is really now beginning to to add $300 to $400 billion a year to its GDP. That's the level we are adding each year, courtesy the size we are at, right? So for us, there are an obvious reason to work with you. But of course, there are sectors, like you mentioned these sectors, and they are all true. But very few people realize that we have very interesting soft power initiatives like Bollywood movies and their post-production and the utility of companies in Krakow. And I can name a few to you offline, but there are companies in Poland that are helping the advertising and cinema and production centers in India, right? Our biggest IT companies have huge facilities in Poland. And we are serving the whole continent from our facilities in Krakow and different cities, right? So because of your English speaking, scientifically trained human capital, which is very similar to some Indian geographies as well in the Indian subcontinent, the services sector lends itself endless possibilities of partnership. And it's really going to be from AI to deep tech to biotech to health tech. There is immense opportunity for the smart young people on both sides to partner together and build a future that is unique, right? That's one part of it. Obviously, you are going to find Poland becoming one of the most important security and defense locations for the Western order in the days, if it's not already there. You are going to find a lot of defense tech and defense companies and security oriented enterprises emerge in Poland. You're going to be rebuilding Ukraine when that rebuilding process starts. You're going to be developing capabilities to connect cities and countries through infrastructure and ports and waterways. So Poland is going to, in the next 10 years, dramatically reimagine itself because of the both opportunities, but also the responsibilities that are going to be placed on it, right? And that allows us a whole basket of new points of engagement between India and Poland. We could partner with you on building airports and, our capabilities of building some of the infrastructure that is needed to develop nations from our IT and technology capabilities and ambitions to the startup sector that is mushrooming in India. Silicon Valley is not the only place. You have the centers in India, in Bangalore, in Pune, in Hyderabad, in Delhi, and Bombay, of course, where you see plenty of opportunities and hunger, right? So I think we have to, as governments and as society, find ways of connecting more Indians with more folks in Poland, and our societies will find the business models. They will create the partnerships required for the future. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are going to emerge. Many sectors of the future, we don't even know how they're going to pan out. So what we can do at this stage is have more Indians and more Polish youth engage with each other. And I think that's what organizations like mine are trying to do, is to build the bridge between peoples. And once you connect people, human enterprise, human spirit, and human aspirations will create the partnership models that will serve both people.
Yes, I believe that this connectivity, especially people to people, and as you mentioned, among youth, is so crucial. I remember we hosted so many exchange students from India, and most of them, after spending 1 or 2 months, usually they came for 1 or 2 semester. After 1 semester, they have already ready business plans. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I loved it so much because I see it also a lot with Polish students that they're very hungry for success, but this success, it's not only about money. It's about this, what you mentioned, this optimism for change. Correct. Yeah, that I can do something, and definitely a lot of energy is there. So let me ask you just the last question. You mentioned so much about the possibilities of cooperation between India and Poland, other Central European countries. So we are strongly looking forward. And you also mentioned about the soft power. And I believe that sometimes, yes, we may focus a bit too much on the hard power sectors. And definitely Bollywood is one of it. We know very well in Europe what kind of benefits it can bring to the country once 2 or 3 movies are here, I mean, in Poland, and they will be popular in India. Are there any other sectors you may think of except movie industry, which is not that obvious for the businessmen or just regular people interested in India?
Obviously, we are a people, and I'll say both sides. We are communities both in Poland and India, which are oral traditions, which have oral traditions. We like to talk, both of us. We have stories to tell. We have histories to share. We have pain and joy and celebration and despair in our existence, which has shaped our people and our societies. So obviously, the creative sector, the storytelling sector, the platforms that are now available today that allow the democratization of the storytelling is clearly an opportunity. But besides that, we are also people who have deep indigenous knowledge. We are societies that have responded to the planet, that have responded to nature, that have discovered natural solutions to daily challenges and problems. In India, we are trying to institutionalize some of our indigenous knowledge around medicines, around agriculture, around sustainability, around lifestyles that are in many ways in sync with where we live. So we also are, we are also exemplars, both Poland and India, of a new growth model. I keep telling people, we will be the first $5 trillion economy with such low levels of carbon footprint. The Americans burned the planet. The Chinese outran America in burning the planet. We are going to be relatively a modest fraction of what the Chinese and Americans were able to achieve when it comes to the clean energy agenda or the emissions agenda. Similarly, we are going to use less resources than anyone else. We have, at our level of growth, we have a third of the cars China had. In 2009, China had more cars per 1,000 people than India has in 2025. We are both $4 trillion, more than $4 trillion. 2009 China, 2025 India. We are both over $4.5 trillion, $2,700 per capita income. But we have a fraction of the cars the Chinese had at that time. So our growth is going to be less resource intense, less energy intense, less harmful for the planet, and more sustainable. Now, this itself is soft power. This growth model is soft power. The Polish economic resurgence from what it was in the 90s to where it is today is soft power. The Polish story has to be told. The Indian transformation is itself attractive and appealing. And in that sense, I think our own pathways of changing our own lives are attractive. And we need to chronicle it. What we are not good at doing, and what Western Europe and America were very good at doing, was to create stories and models and narratives around their changes. We are good at oral traditions. We are not good at creating chronicles of change. We need to invest in, we need to actually record our journey and make that available to everyone.
And maybe not be so modest about it, right?
And maybe and not be modest or hesitant about it.
Yes.
And we don't have to hide when we fall. Falling and getting up is a good story in itself, right? So for me, I think soft power is really about being honest about our transformations and making it available to everyone in the world to engage with, criticize, learn from, and partner in. So in some ways, I think what we try to do in India now is to make the world a stakeholder in our journey. So yes, we receive a lot of criticism, but we receive a lot of encouragement as well. And over time, if you're honest in what you want to do, you will have more supporters than detractors. And I think that is the strength of open societies such as Poland, such as India, that allow every citizen to be an ambassador of the country, allow every journey to be a journey that all can partake in, allow every destination to be a destination for the world and not just for the country, right? So I think that is the unique soft power that both India and Poland should focus on.
Thank you so much for our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Aleksandra.
Program indyjski na podróży bez paszportu. Zaprasza Aleksandra Jaskólska.